This is Raf's Cast, Tales from Mohawk Ed, the podcast for the advertising students at Mohawk College in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. We'll have a series of interviews of alumni in the industry and bring back tips and hints about how to break into the advertising industry. This time, I had a conversation with Jordan Dunlop. He's the creative director at Anomaly in UK, in London, UK, and a former Mohawk student graduated from the class of 2011. With was very honored to have this conversation, and it was so much insight and what is the direction of the advertising industry, not only in North America but also in Europe and all over the world. I want you to please enjoy this conversation with Jordan. At the same time, I just want to get a reminder that we just have one more episode after this one, and before we get into a break, all the time into January, when the second part of season 2 will start. So let's go to it. Jordan Dunlop, creative director at Anomaly, London, UK. This is Raf's Cast, Tales from Mohawk Ed. Today I have a pleasure to have the creative director for Anomaly, London, UK, and former Mohawk student from class of 2011. I am correct, Jordan? I think it is.
I
Yeah,
believe so, yeah.
as of 2011, so it's been a decade. And I was going through your book, your website, and I was like that reels that you see now, just like wow, 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 every time, everything that you did there. It's mind blowing the amount of work, and I know it's just a selection on your website, and I want to talk about it today. Welcome, Jordan Dunlop.
Thanks, Raf. Yeah, I'm so happy to catch up with you. This will be fun.
Yes. So, so as I do every time, I will start asking you how are things with the remote working right now in Europe, in UK?
Yeah, it's interesting. I To be honest, I'm a fan of it. I think it's a good thing when it comes to just mental health, not stressing out too much, just being more in control of your own time. I think that's really great. The good thing about the time that we're living in now is there's just great technology to be able to collaborate, whether that's things like Zoom, Google Docs, whatever it might be that your company or your agency works with. But we have the tech to make things happen pretty much globally across the world, and I think that's super, super cool. Um, what it isn't as good for definitely is just meeting people in person. You always have that in person connection, everything from body language to just collaborating to just chatting about things that aren't work. So I do miss that part, but overall, I'm quite happy with the way that the industry started to evolve, and especially where I work at Anomaly with remote working. It's a good thing, and I just feel generally just more happy overall, and it's a nice mix of getting things done, but also being able to collaborate through tech and things like that. So yeah, it's not a bad thing for me personally.
Do they have any plans to go back a few days or make a hybrid model or something like that? Or what do you think?
Yes, so Anomaly, ever since we were allowed to, work in person again, we try to get together at least twice a week, especially in my role because I like to meet with the different team members and all the different people that we have across the agency. So I usually go in at least twice a week. If we want to go in more, we're totally welcome to do that. But that's generally how we do it. It's a nice mix. It's a hybrid working, which is pretty cool, I think.
Hmm. All right, so I will transport you back when you are at the college on the creative stream. And after going through your career, we're going to ask a few questions to help for current students to go through and how the best way to find a placement on your opinion. So I see here that I remember you were working for Nico Apparel Assistance when you were at the college, and you started working during the college years. So how was that experience for you?
That was really great. The role came about actually through another Mohawk graduate, Brandon Lynch at the time, who was the senior graphic designer at that company. Nico is essentially a sports apparel company
Hmm.
that created jerseys and apparel for basically every university, a lot of the high school teams, and a few national teams across Canada. So we would just make really cool sports gear. I've always loved sports. I've always loved fashion. So that was a really cool opportunity for me. The invite came through Mohawk. I applied. Luckily, I got it, and then it was a great way to basically during the summer have a real job, hone your skills. It's great that I was able to learn a lot of the hands-on stuff like Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, design tricks, things like this. So it was really cool working for that company and then coming back the following semester and having, additional learnings and additional tricks that I learned from that job. And then you could see how you could apply things from school to actually make real things out in life. And in that case, it was apparel, clothing, as well as the marketing and design work that came around that.
So definitely spend your time in the summer developing our skills. It's a good strategy to get to the next level much faster.
Absolutely. Like I remember in my first semester, actually kind of just took the summer off and didn't do anything to do with marketing. And it's funny because when you come back to the semester, you're like, oh, I forget how to do things. So it allowed me to just
Mhm.
keep the skills sharp and also learn more, and then come back a little bit stronger. And then also it was fun to just, show what you learned and apply it in school.
By the way, Jeff said hello to you.
Oh, amazing. I
But
miss Jeff.
yeah,
Yeah, it's so
yeah.
nice to
Hey, say hi for me. Say hi to Jordan. Yes. Uh, with that, I remember Jeff because both of us work at Low Roche, and I think a lot of former students also get through their passage to Low Roche somehow. And I remember working for Sony at the time
Oh,
was
cool.
was 2000. Yes, 21 years ago, and I see you went through there. So it was your first internship. You show your book and start doing the internship. How was the process from third year, all that pressure and peers critiquing the work of each other, getting through it until you finally have an offer for internship? How was that process?
Yeah, totally. So at the time, I was definitely trying to talk to as many agencies as I could. I was also quite picky, to be honest. I didn't really put my book in every single inbox that I could find. But at the time, La Roche was a really hot shot. They had
Mm-hmm.
some really nice ideas coming out, lots of awards, and they were also not a giant agency. They were small, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was interesting for a first step in a career to learn from a smaller team because you'll get more attention from the senior creatives, from the management, things like that, and you'll have more hands-on experience, which I thought was great. So at the time, essentially, they had a portfolio review night where they were looking for different talent, different people to bring in as interns. And at that time, myself and Matt Camara, we both applied and showed our
Mm-hmm.
portfolios. They both really liked the work that we were doing at Mohawk and just what we had created so far for our portfolio, and they offered us both internships. So at the time we were so happy, so we took the internship. It was such a great opportunity. It was really cool because what I really liked about that job is we actually got to work on real projects. There wasn't really any fake stuff that was going on. I
Mm-hmm.
think our first project was actually like a billboard for Audi, which is a very high class client at that time. I wouldn't imagine that I would have worked on that my first couple of months. So that was really fun. And then from there, other projects. I think there's Purina pet food, Audi, like all different types of clients. But it was nice to just get hands on experience. And then at the same time, I also received really good mentorship from some of the creatives there who were just, they would take you to the side and they really teach you how things are done, whether that's how to
Mm-hmm.
build a beautiful deck or how to approve print proofs or all these little tricks that I still learn today. And I thought that was super invaluable. And I learned a lot of La Roche is a really good shop.
After a few months there, I see that you work in Audi and Purina there.
Yeah, mainly, and a handful of other little projects, but those were the
Mm-hmm.
two that I think I had the most fun on.
So after a few months, you went directly as a full-time as Texas as an art director. Tell me
I
that.
did.
Tell me that story because
Yeah,
it's a
so
different shop, different culture.
definitely. So as I was working at La Roche, I was also just sharing my portfolio, and also other colleagues at Mohawk were also sharing the portfolios with Taxi. and through a connection with Ryan, who would later become my partner at Sid Lee. Ryan Chisholm. He showed some work. They asked,
Hmm.
who art directed this, and at the time, I just really randomly got an email from the ECD at Taxi, and they said, "We like your work. We're looking for juniors. Would you like to leave La Roche and come aboard Taxi?" So I first talked to the ECDs at La Roche. I let them know the conversation I was having with Taxi, and
I see.
they basically said go for it, because again, Taxi was a hot shop, really really good work at the
Oh
time,
yes.
and they said we can't hold you back. You really need to take this opportunity, and they actually really coached me and like pushed me along. So I was really happy that there's no holding back, and they're really happy for me to take that job. And then I started that job at Taxi. And yeah, it was interesting because that's where I really learned how to be an art director and how to really, do work for real, deal with clients, sell things, work with strategy, things like this.
So you have this partner that you got, and you stay with this copywriter for the whole time there. How is the interaction with a partner? What he
Yeah,
suggests?
so we actually teamed up. We had never met. They basically put us on a little date to get some drinks together and make sure we like each other. Uh,
Mhm.
and then
That's fine.
luckily, yeah, you definitely have to like your partner. You have to get along. You have to have good chemistry. And luckily, we're very similar vibes, really similar tone and ambitions and things, and we got along great. And that was Marco at the time. Really, really great writer, super talented. And yeah, we just clicked really well, and we worked together at Taxi 2 for I think like maybe 2.5 years, primarily on the Kudo accounts, where we got to shape a lot of that brand tone and just the way that company acted at the time, and we got to create some really fun projects.
I remember that little character for Kudo. And how was that project? Jeff has a small one in his office, and I'm so jealous because he has the little doll there. Tell the students about this project.
Yeah,
How
I,
was
I
that
have
one?
some. I have some of the dolls too, and it's funny to see them sell on eBay for hundreds of dollars today, which I thought was quite interesting.
Hmm.
But yeah, at the time he was the spokesperson for the company. He was the underdog, the little wrestler that takes on the giants, and the giants being the other big telco companies out there. I think today, in today's climate and just cultural climate, it might not be the right idea to really, put forward. But at the time, he was a great spokesperson and offered a lot of opportunity to create humor and really fun ways to talk about Kudo and what makes them different. So I thought it was great. Every brief you have, you're basically like, how can we use this funny little cartoon wrestler,
Hmm.
tell some jokes, and then also just make something really interesting. It was also great because we could work with really interesting animation companies in order to create those cartoons and create those films or ads or whatever we might be making. It was cool, really cool. That overall idea was established before I had arrived at Taxi, but we were
Hmm.
able to take it and make it our own through things like a Christmas album or different films, really funny radio, and different digital activations. So yeah, it was a great, really fun opportunity. Cartoons, what's not to love?
Yeah, I remember that at the time it was something that took over the whole city, the whole Canada. That every way you go, you see it. You see on YouTube, on TV, all different medias. There's the wrestler there, and there's no way that you cannot sympathize and has a kind of empathy with the guy trying to match the big company. So it was a very good campaign. But I understand your point when you say you don't know if they will be approved nowadays, but at the time was a very good one. So I yeah really like it. Really like it. So what do you can say about uh, the? I always touch on that point of saying the agency culture. What is a good agency culture that you think make people grow in there? What do you the most important things, Jordan?
Definitely, yeah. I think an agency culture and your point about growing is super huge. I think if you have an agency where no one's helping each other and they're only helping themselves, they're not sharing the work, they're not discussing things, or they're not just collaborating. To me, that's a bad agency culture. But the best agencies that do the best work and that have the best culture are ones where people nurture each other, where they help each other out, you might not be on a project on a specific brief, but if you have something that you see, like I'm actually really, this is my number. I always do this whenever I'm in the office and I'm walking around. If I see
Hmm.
something really cool on someone's screen or just something that I'm curious about, I'll always ask, what are you working on? How's this going? What's next for you? These type of things. Then I might offer an opinion or a little trick that I might have learned or something like that. So if people are helping each other grow around them, you all grow together, right? Um,
Yes.
Agencies that are competitive internally and everyone like it's only in it for themselves, I don't really think that's the way to go. Some people think that'll make themselves more successful, but if I'm very honest, like you have to be successful as an agency and as a team in order to be successful yourself. So for me, I think it's just good people that want to help each other and that want to make really cool work and are open to collaborating. Collaboration is probably the biggest thing about culture. It's always great if you can be friends, if you can have drinks with people, those type of things. That's always a
Hmm.
plus. But for me, it's all about collaboration. And if you can help in whatever way and be a nice human while doing it, then that to me is a good agency culture.
Yeah, probably the students hearing that is a good way to start at the college too, because a lot of students are secretive about their work and say, "Oh my God, you're secretive about make believe work right now, just the college work." Imagine if you go through to the industry. So thank
Mm.
you so much that you are going through this. I will go back now to taxi and tell me the work that you remember the most, uh, the one that gives you the best run at taxi.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. Actually, one that's not listed on my portfolio, but one that I did have on there for a while. We used to work on craft dinner at Taxi, pretty much everything for that brand.
Hmm.
And what I thought was a really cool project is we actually created our own brief and found our own opportunity for this one thing. At the time, Dead Mouse, who's a Canadian, pretty famous EDM DJ,
Oh
he
yes.
was on Twitter, and there was a venue I think opening in Toronto at the time, and he made a joke on Twitter that if you give me some free craft dinner, I'll show up and do a show at this venue. So we saw this tweet. There was
Oh my
no
God.
real, yeah, there was no real project about this. We were just on Twitter. We followed Deadmau5, our social strategist, and we were like, this is cool. What can we do with this? And so what we decided to do is literally overnight, stayed up pretty damn late, and created basically a custom craft dinner package with Dead Mouse's iconic mouse ears. So
Yes, the one.
mice, cheese, all these things just seemed to go together in our heads at the time. We created this gift package, complete with custom packaging that we printed the next morning. A lot of just fun little items that we were inspired by with the things that Dead Mouse liked. And we basically said, hey, we have all the craft dinner you want. It's waiting for you at the venue. And we dropped it off at the venue for him to do this show. Turns out he loved it. He retweeted it. He commented on it. It basically got a bajillion views. I don't know what the impressions were exactly, but
Uh huh.
just from a small tweet to something really huge. And what it did is it just really blew up overnight. And for us, that was like my first viral project that we did with someone in culture who at the time was Deadmau5. And for me, I thought that was just a really cool project because we seized opportunity essentially and created something out of nothing. So for me, that's probably my favorite. It's not on my website because it was just a small thing at the time, but I thought that was really cool. Uh, just to embed yourself in culture and do something from nothing.
So I think that it comes the time when what you were just saying that people need to take risks and be informed about everything about redundant about the client itself. But how courageous you need to be, because I think a lot of people say, I'm not doing this, it's ridiculous, or I'm afraid of doing this, or it's too risky. How you suggest creative students go through this kind of a creative process to instantly get something that is happening and try to make it happen?
Definitely, yeah. So I think it comes down to a couple of things. The first off is you have to find the opportunity, whatever it is. There's always an opportunity in everything. Whatever brief it is, you can find something that you can make bigger than the piece of paper you have in front of you. I would then say that you have to have that bravery and you can't be afraid of rejection. I'll be honest, 90% of the ideas I put forward to clients, they don't go forward, they get rejected, and that's okay. But you have to get used to that rejection and then taking the small bits that don't get rejected or that do become something, and then making them the best they can be. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're not afraid to just like put things out there and get opinions and try it, that Wayne Gretzky quote, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So like you have to shoot your shot. You have to try. And if you don't, that's okay. There's always going to be the next opportunity. But if you don't put those ideas out there, you have no chance of making it or making something. So don't be afraid of rejection. Just really put your ideas out there. Be confident when you present. Try to back things up. Because with the rights, people jumping on board, you could make something really interesting. So yeah, just don't be afraid of rejection. You're gonna get rejected a ton, so just get used to it. But the
Mm-hmm.
ones that do go through will hopefully be really good for you.
That's great to hear because students have a hard time getting rejection when they are at school. Like, oh my god, I spent so much time doing this assignment or this project, and then it rip it apart.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's also learning that as much as we tell the reasons and but I completely agree with you. It's great insight that it just gives to the students and to myself. uh, i I say that all the interviews I'm making right now, I always learning new things, and with the learning talking with you guys, I will be able to apply more stuff into the college programming to program to make it better with the other teachers. So thank you, that was a great insight. Let's go. We went after 2 years there, almost 3 years and 2 years and 3 months. As I see it here on LinkedIn, you went through one of my favorite ever agencies, Sidley. So that's one place that if I would be back to work, I would definitely want to work at Sidley because of the way they see things differently by my point of view, the work there. So how was that transition?
They definitely do see things differently, and I think what I really learned at Sidley was craft, especially when it comes to design, execution, things like this. At the time, again, they were doing really, really great work. Things for like Sport Check, the Toronto Raptors We the North campaign, Toronto FC, things like this. That agency was amazing, especially as an art director, because to be honest, I went through a lot of feedback there, and the CDs were tough on you and things like that. But that only makes you stronger. And I learned like really what craft was, like really judging every pixel, every little choice you make in language or in the idea, or just taking your idea and trying to boil it down to like the most simplest, most powerful thing. That's really where I learned, I think, to be like a good art director. Like I was an okay art director at Taxi, but Sidley kind of pushed me into really caring about every detail of a project and making sure that it's the best it can be. So yeah, had a lot of fun at Sidley and made some really cool work. And I know what you mean. Like they're a really iconic Canadian shop doing a lot of
Mm-hmm.
really nice work. And I was so happy to work there for that time and just basically absorb things from the team around me and make a couple cool projects while we were there.
What I see on all of your work, the Jordan, it's the expansion of every single campaign that you're doing. It's impeccable. Okay, for what you're
Thanks.
posting, no problem, because the expansion is so well put together, and everything is you can see the quality and the detail on every single piece there, and that's the thing that differentiate, I think, the finishing on the craft, like you just said to me. I think it makes impression when you say this is top notch work. So all the pieces there, everything there you're doing, keep doing it with your teams because it's pretty good. It's pretty good, my friend. It's uh, well, how was working with the Toronto Raptors and Toronto FC, all the sport teams, and how was that?
Yeah, it was great. I think I've always been a fan of the sports and the culture around it. At the time, I also partnered with my good friend Ryan Chisholm, who we were discussing earlier, and
Uh
we had
huh.
the opportunity, who is the biggest sports fan in advertising, if I had to say. So that was great because every brief we got, we're just like, we love this. We're having so much fun. Let's make the most out of it. It was really cool. I think it's really cool because the prestige that comes with those type of clients is really cool. I particularly didn't work on things like Raptors, but we did have a chance to help on Toronto FC and build a lot of that campaign for a few of the players during like Jermaine Defoe, which was a big news at the time. And yeah, it's I think sports are the coolest type of projects because there's this side of culture and the fans, everything from the fashion that goes with it, the celebrations and things like that. But then there's also the sports themselves and what happens on the court or on the field, things like this. So
Hmm.
it's this wicked combination of all these things going on where you can ideally combine them all and craft something that reaches so many people. And then when it goes right and you see the fans going crazy or you see the players talking about your work or things like this, it's like the biggest pat on the back. It's a bit of a high,
Hmm.
which I think is really cool. I definitely live for that kind of feeling when I see work or when I see people talking about the work or liking the work or even hating the work. That's okay too. But yeah, sports are one of my favorite things to work on for sure.
But Jordan, how was your involvement with that uh, uh, tweet campaign that the face of the players becomes like a typography from the tweets that people made online?
Yeah, I can tell you the
Uh,
story of that.
yes,
So that's jumping a little bit forward to working at Anomaly.
sure.
We had basically all of
Oh
Nike's
yes,
social
okay,
channels.
okay. Let's go there. Okay, so let's put that on hold
Cool.
and come back here because I think it was I confusing the times that you did that because yeah,
All good.
not in 2013 for sure because it was not at that time. This is very uh, just a year old or a year and a half old. That campaign, yes, okay,
Yeah, a
and
couple of
two
years. Yeah.
years, 2 years, 3 years, yes, okay. Uh, we'll get through now. Changing from taxi into Sidley and from Sidley into Anomaly that you are now for since 2015. So we're 6 years now.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
the
God.
longest. Yeah, the longest job I've had across a couple different offices there.
Uh
So
huh.
yeah, so basically, we got one thing I think is actually really important, maybe to touch upon, is your
Sure.
reputation when you work with different colleagues, which you'll probably notice in Toronto or Canadian advertising agencies, is you'll probably work with the same people more than once at different places. So
Cool.
your reputation, the vibe that you give, and the way people remember you is super important. So Ryan and I were very lucky to basically have a colleague who moved on from Sidley over to Anomaly recommend us as a team that was just good to work with. And we got offered the job at Anomaly. And at the time, Anomaly was this brand new big American agency that was really hot at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't say no. And I think the client list was really cool there. So we jumped over to Anomaly. And Ryan and I quickly kind of made a name for ourselves in things like sports and fashion and just different cultural type of things and a little bit of comedy as well. So yeah, we jumped right into Anomaly. Luckily, we had some really cool projects right off the bat that did quite well, and we were able to just keep growing and growing and growing at that agency. And I think I've probably made all my favorite projects at an Anomaly, to be honest. And yeah, it was a really good time.
You touch a very important part here. That is the. It doesn't matter how good your work is. If you burn bridges, you're in trouble, isn't it?
It's true. Yeah, I think one thing that Anomaly they say is their motto is no assholes allowed. So it's all about high talent and low ego. So we try to have that vibe everywhere we go and just make sure that like generally like people enjoy working with you. If you don't enjoy working with people, it's no good for anyone, right? So if you're positive, you try to find ways to uplift people and just make the work,
Mm-hmm.
that goes a long way. I think you can be a good creative, but if you're an even better human being, you'll probably even go further in your career.
That's great to hear. I was killing laughing myself with the hair shirt work that he did with the cookie chocolate bar.
Oh yeah.
With the hair shirt, that was pretty amazing piece. Tell our students about the creative process for that and how that campaign is.
Yeah, so that one was interesting. It came basically I just wanted to make that candy bar famous. It was cookies and cream, and the unique thing about this and the unique insight about this product, which the idea came right from the product and the product itself, the way that they manufacture this, they put these random little cookie crumbles in the bar, and it's completely random, but at the same time, every bar is exactly the same. It's the same texture, it's the same taste. So the idea was called Exactly Different. And we thought to ourselves, what other things in life are like this? And one thing is the palm of your hand or your fingerprints or things like this. They're all completely unique when you look really close, but at the same time, they're all the same. And we thought there's some parallels to this, and that is a palm reader, which is a random, like, to be honest, it's a stupid idea, but it's a funny one, and it's also a smart idea at the same time. We basically used the cookie bar as the palm of your hand, and we had a cookie bar fortune teller. So rather than reading the palm of your hand to tell your fortune, she would read your bar. So through a digital experience, you would upload an image of your cookies and cream bar. She would decipher those cookie bits, just like the lines on the palm of your hand, and she would spit out a customized fortune to you. So what we did is we basically brainstormed hundreds of fortune outcomes based on different things like life,
Oh my
love,
God.
wealth, things like this. We actually opened it up to the whole agency and every single writer in the agency to write hilarious fortunes, and we
I
just
see.
chose the top like 200 or whatever it was.
Hmm.
And then around that, we built the website experience so that you can upload it on your webcam. We also casted a really cool actor who at the time hadn't done much acting, but was just a wicked character. She like fully went into
Yes.
the character of this fortune teller, and she's probably a little bit crazy, which worked for us. So we shot some films to advertise the promotion, which were on television and social. We also created the website experience, and then we created hundreds of illustrated fortunes, which you can share on social media once you get your fortune. And plus a ton of different content around that using our fortune teller. Her name was Frida. So yeah, the cool thing about that one is the insight came right from the product. You couldn't do anything with another product for that particular idea. And then from that insight, we were able to create like tons of pieces of content. I think the deliverables were in like the 500 plus pieces. It was a lot of work, a lot of organizing and figuring stuff out, but yeah, super, super fun. Like we were just laughing at our desks every day. Like you can't, yeah, it was great.
I'm gonna repeat your website. It's jordandunlop.ca. But I repeat in the end again to the listeners to go back there and see the work. But I was laughing myself because I think like this is genius. My God, that's a kind of analogy that you pick it up and one specific part of the product and make this whole campaign. That for me is kind of a dream creative execution. So it is very good. It was very good. How long a project like that takes from you get a chocolate bar in your hand and open and see what is unusual about it until everything is said and done with KPIs?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it's probably like 6 months in the making. From like usually the early stages are really about just getting approval and
Hmm.
getting the clients and everyone to agree to spend the money or to create that idea, and you have to go up the ladder, from more day-to-day clients all the way up to like CMOs and things like this. The
Okay.
first part was definitely a little bit slower to get that happening, but once we got approval and they're like, okay, now go and make it and make it the best it can be, then it really happened quite quickly. So probably over 3 months we did everything from shoot the content to create the website to create the illustrations, things like this. So yeah, it was, if I remember correctly, probably like 6 months, maybe a little longer. But like I said, we're having fun the whole time, so it went
Hmm.
pretty quick.
I can imagine that, because you cannot think in an instant something to go outside of the box beyond appetite appeal and cookies and cream coming together, that kind of expected thing. And I think going to the expected is the way to go. But some people do the unexpected in a way that you see that is forced, that is doesn't work. How you find that fine line between this is different but it will work and that's different and you see that it is too much.
Yeah, I think that the thing with expected is that it blends in, right? Like it doesn't stand out. And in advertising and in what we do in marketing, we need to stand out, because by standing out, you get those eyeballs, you get those impressions, you get people talking or considering your product. Um, I tend to be a little allergic to ideas that I've seen before or that I just see trending, or I think to be honest, I really don't. I try to always do it a little bit different wherever I can, or I try to guide teams and people around me to think differently. Yeah, like you basically what you have to do is you have to get people to believe in that idea, right? And that comes with first being brave yourself, but then also backing things up. And in this particular campaign, no one could deny the truth about the product, that it's exactly different, it's totally unique, just like the palm of your hand. So once we had people agreeing on that simple sentence, the rest kind of came together, and it took a while to get them to agree on it. But from there, it was just okay, green light, and the rest was quite easy because every meeting we're having with the client, we're laughing, we're talking about the jokes and things like that. So yeah, if you can start somewhere really true, somewhere that stands out but doesn't stand out for no reason, like you have to be on strategy, you have to have a reason to do this weird idea. If you just do a weird idea and it doesn't apply to the product or to the strategy or to the marketing objective, it's just a weird idea for no reason. But if you have this different idea that makes sense and that you can prove will, meet the objectives, then that really helps. And sometimes you'll need a team to back you up. Like it wasn't just us talking to the client about this. We had strategy, we had account people. We even did a little bit of a focus group with people who love the candy bars and asked like, why do you love this candy bar? What's different about it than, let's say, another Hershey bar or another competitor bar? So we had to do a lot of selling, but overall, once you get there and once you have that sell-in, usually it's a lot easier
It's just
to move
strong.
things
It's
and
just
make
stronger. It's just stronger already. Okay.
exactly.
Good. Excellent. Um, all right. So that's what when we'll reach that point, coming back to the tweet typography phase campaign. That was huge. I remember that saying also everywhere. The for Nike and the Raptors that when they're winning campaign, run campaign for the title of the NBA, that you guys introduced the data from the Twitter coming together. And I was thinking like, oh my god, they do all the type by hand and put it in. It was super interesting in knowing the process, and it was gigantic because the players were involved and everybody was talking about it. Tell me about that campaign.
Yeah, so that was actually a really interesting uh, campaign that we were able to create. And back to the idea of creating your own opportunity and finding opportunities. The original brief for that project was
Hmm.
actually to basically watch the Raptors playoff games, and every time they score a point or something, or they win a game, to basically find a stock image on Getty and then write Twitter copy in the Nike tone to celebrate that win or that achievement during the game. That was the brief. That's what Nike wanted to do at the time. And Ryan and I saw that and we said, okay, that's all right. But what can we do that can make a bigger splash, that can be more unique and more, just different, like the things that I love to do? So we answered that brief. We gave them the options. Like if they wanted it, they could do that. That was on paper. That was fine. But we also
You
presented,
are with Ryan Chesson?
yeah. That
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
time
yeah,
that was
yeah,
with Ryan.
yeah,
Yeah, and it
yeah,
was great to have him
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. He will
super
be here
Raptors
too.
fan.
Amazing. Yeah, he's amazing. He is amazing. Okay.
So basically, we did that job, but we also at the same time presented another deck of additional ideas. This was one of them, and the idea was basically to take the idea that behind every player there's an army of fans that lead to every success of that player, right? It's not just about the players. There's people behind them that give them the motivation to do what they do and to hopefully win. So we had a simple deck. It was maybe like 10 pages. It was about three ideas. That was one of them. And we said, hey, this is the same thing. We can take social content. We can take what's happening on the internet right now, but we can make it bigger, and we can basically give the fans some fuel to cheer on their favorite players even more and to celebrate the wins that happen. So Nike saw it. We had a lot of help from the social team to basically find these tweets of really great Raptors fans across Canada who are just cheering on and
Hmm.
celebrating the players. And the brand managers luckily loved it, and they happened to have some extra budget from another project. And they said, "This is amazing. How quick can you do it? You have like 3 days." And
Oh my god.
yeah, so we're like, "Oh, great!" We were happy at first, but then we were a little bit panicking. So what I thought was great about the team that we had right then, we had myself, Ryan, the social team, but we also had a really great illustrator, Brian Espiritu, who's known in Toronto for brands like the Legends League and things like that. He's a super talented artist. We had this concept of creating portraits. We brainstormed with Brian, like, how can we take this typography inspired by the tweets of the fans, and what can we do to create these portraits. We developed a technique to do this, a combination of like Photoshop and hands-on marker work and paper and all these things that came in to make it. And basically, we just jammed on these things, selecting the copy of the tweets. First, we had to clear it with the people on Twitter. So we had to ask their permission to use this. Everyone was super excited to have their tweets in the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just jammed on this literally, I think, over the weekend to create a series of like, I think, 5 posters of all the different players, DeMar DeRozan and all the different Raptors at the time. And then by that following, I think, week, we had all the posters out as digital content, as posters in the streets, things you could print at home. And then at the same time, we were also tweeting these portraits to the players and also to the fans who contributed their tweets of encouragement and cheering.
That's
And,
a lot of
yeah,
work. A lot
it
of
was
work.
insane. Yeah, you'll notice like a lot of my projects, when we like something, we go all in, and it's okay to stay up a couple nights in a row.
Of
I don't advise doing this constantly, but once in a while for the right opportunity, it's definitely worth it. And yeah, we all jumped on, and luckily it went really well. It went kind of viral, and I thought it was the coolest thing to that see all the players and the Raptors sharing them. Some of them even made them like their iPhone wallpapers and things like this. So it was really cool just to see that, and also just make the fans feel like legends. Like these fans from small cities across Canada are now in a Nike campaign and being retweeted by DeMar DeRozan. Like, quite cool for us as well as them. So I like that.
Let me
That
take a note here of a question. Mm, so I can remember later. It just came to my mind.
Yeah, no
Uh,
worries.
uh, you're also working with Bud Light, Converse, Hershey, again, Sport Check. Uh, and after that, I say, what is the time when you decide, oh my God, I will join the team in Germany?
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of
Because
things.
you're doing pretty good here in Toronto. In not here. I'm in Hamilton, but in Toronto, and you're doing pretty well there. Solid team, amazing work, career. And how was like? I think it's time to move to Europe. How
Yeah,
was it?
definitely. So like I loved the team in Toronto. Like, I could have stayed another 10 years easily. But at the time, just for me, a lot of things were changing in life. I just got married. Didn't quite want to settle down and have kids at that time. So I basically talked to my wife, like, hey, what would you want to do? Like, what would be really cool right now? And we love traveling. First off, like, traveling is one of my favorite things to do. And we thought, hey, is there somewhere in the world that we would like to work? And to be honest, it wasn't Berlin at the time. It wasn't really on my radar. But what happened was that Anomaly opened in Berlin, was probably about maybe like 8 months old at the time. There's maybe only like 10 people working there.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to have a mutual friend from way back when who was working in Berlin, and he had shared some work for a brand called Remova, which is a German brand that creates really high end luxury suitcases under the LVMH brand. The work was just amazing. It was really artistic, really beautiful, and I was like, okay, I love this work, and I want to do projects like this, like highly artistic, highly conceptual. uh, I reached out. I said, "Yo, cool, you're at the Berlin office. I'm also in Toronto. How's life?" And we just chatted. And the cool thing about Anomaly is we are super collaborative across offices, whether that's New York, Los Angeles, Shanghai,
Mm-hmm.
wherever, Amsterdam, London. All the offices work together on things like pitches or global briefs. So it was really easy to basically say hello to the people in Berlin. At the time, they were pitching Porsche, the brand,
Mm-hmm.
in the car brand in Germany.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's, yeah, a really fun one too. And I basically put my hand up and I said, "Hey, I heard you guys are pitching. I'm happy to help on this pitch if you'll have me on the project." And I talked to the CDs there. They said, "Heck yeah, we want to have you help." So through the magic of Google Slides and Zoom and all those great things, I helped them with the pitch. And then what happened was we won that. We won that pitch, and it was a huge piece of business for the office at the time because they were so small.
Hmm.
And after that, they basically said, "We really loved working with you. If you want to come to Germany, you have a job here." And so, yeah, I had some chats with my family and things, and I said, "Hey, I think I'm gonna move to Berlin." I moved there, and yeah, it was such a great. Berlin's amazing for things like creativity and just the events and the culture and things like that. I think
Hmm.
there's nowhere like it, to be honest. It's a very
Yeah,
weird city
I've
and
been.
very
Yeah,
inspiring.
I've been there in 2000. At Berlin in 2009. Yeah, I love it. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's yeah.
you
When it
can
comes,
only go and like experience it. You can't really like describe it. You
yes,
just gotta go. Yeah.
it's so unique and different. It's a very unique city when it comes to yeah. It's a different feeling. And uh, so, how was the work environment in Germany? People were more relaxed or more firm. How was it? Talking about the culture again.
Yeah.
It
So
was.
so culturally overall, it's like two sides of the coin, right? In some ways, they're quite serious when you think of the history of the country and the things that the people have been through. But at the same time, because
Mhm.
of that, they also really know how to have a good time and to enjoy life and just you know I think when you're enjoying life, you're probably creating more creative stuff and you're being more inspired and things like that. So I thought that was really interesting. When I think of the work, just because it was a very small team at the time. It's definitely grown in the last couple of years, but at the time it was only a handful of us. So coming from Anomaly in Toronto, which is probably like 150-ish people, to then Berlin, which is less than 20, I found myself now like, okay, we really need to like act like a startup. We need to pitch tons of business. We have to work on all different aspects of things just because we had a smaller team. But I thought that was really cool because we became a really tight family. And yeah, still some of my best friends are there. So it was cool. I basically kind of restarted from big agency to small agency. At that time, I also got to just have like more connection to like the CEOs and like really see how the business works. Like I understood how every pitch worked. I understood like the hiring process when we're hiring new people, things like this, and I got pulled into that much more just because we were a smaller team. And I think I learned to be a better leader at that agency, which for me was super invaluable. I'm super grateful to have that.
Hmm. One work that I saw that you did there for Ancestry, uh, and it was very moving. The video that you have in the portfolio about the histories and the immigration and the wall and how many different ones of those ones stories you guys designed and how successful that campaign was. That I'm dreaming about making the kind of a DNA test someday about this, but those commercials are very well put together. How was the brief for that one?
Yeah, so that one was quite interesting. Basically, Ancestry was launching in Germany. They had done some small launches, but nothing big. They never really like claimed the market in Germany at that time. In
Mm-hmm.
North America, it was much more well known, but they didn't. No one knew who they were in Germany and around in that market. At the same time, Germany is interesting because they're very afraid of sharing data, DNA, things like this. Like
I see.
even in the country, not a lot of people use credit cards and things like this just because they don't want their data being shared with different parties. So we basically had to prove people that it's worth it to discover things with these DNA tests and with the family trees and all the things that Ancestry offers. And what was interesting about German history or a lot of the families, we actually interviewed a lot of different people around Germany about like their family, their history. Do they even know who their grandparents were? A lot of them did, and a lot of them had stories that were, not always positive, but at the same time, those stories made who they are today, and maybe the stories that their grandparents told them helped develop their character
Mm-hmm.
in the people that they are today. So it was quite tough actually selling this concept to clients who generally want things to be happy and positive and things. They're a little bit scared of tension. But we said to them, hey, we have to tell the real story. We can't tell a sugar-coated story and everything's happy and rainbows, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be honest about what people might discover on Ancestry. But at the same time, the things they'll discover will make them stronger and they'll make them the people they are today. So
Mm-hmm.
we found real stories of real families, people who might have, you know, immigrated from places like Poland back in the 1800s, might have been separated, might have had family members taken from them, might have found love across the east-west border, might have been separated again, like all these ways that you're affected. And yeah, we basically found a very artistic way, which was kind of inspired by theater performance, like black box theater, to basically create metaphors and what feels like a dreamlike montage of history. So fragments of memories that would create your identity. And the line on that was, "You are your story." So everything that happens in the past and had happened in your family creates who you are today through different memories and different puzzle pieces that you might have found in Ancestry. So yeah, we created the film. That was really fun to shoot, and art direct and find ways of creating metaphors to tell these historical moments. Then we also created educational content that taught you how your family tree worked or how to do your test. And then we also created tons of social content that dived a little bit deeper into some of the real stories.
Mm-hmm.
But then what I thought was the coolest part of this campaign, it's not that just that we made the campaign, it's that we found the right time to launch it. And that was during the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. They call it Mauerfall
Mm-hmm.
in Germany. And that is a time where naturally families are remembering the past and they're remembering the goods and the bads that happened in Germany. So by launching that campaign at that time, it was already part of the conversation. And then through that, we got a lot of like pickup in certain news and things like that. So it was a cool combination of like, again, like a real honest story, no
Mm-hmm.
lies, nothing like that, finding a cool way to execute it artistically, and then making sure that it was launched in a time that's culturally relevant and people are talking about their past. So all of it came together and it did quite well. I don't know the exact stats, but yeah, I think throughout the office and Anomaly still works with the industry on all kinds of projects and markets. So yeah, overall, really, really good one for us.
But I can see definitely establishing the brand in Germany.
Definitely, yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, this particular campaign looks nothing like any of the other Ancestry campaigns, which I'm quite proud of. So
Mm-hmm. I see a lot of your work there, and there's a lot of your work that involves music and a lot of cool art direction and singing. All the different sequence that you have in your videos. There's such an amazing selection of B-rolls and sequences that you have on your videos for everything you produce. How is their process? You put a storyboard together and you work closer with the production company. How is this process for you? Because
definitely,
it's very
yeah.
well done. Very well done. Yes.
I'm a person who always collects inspiration. So I try to remember things, save things. If I see a really cool movie on Netflix where I love a certain scene, if I see a piece of design that I love from another designer, if I see a music video, like I love music videos to be honest. Like that's probably my if I could choose a new job, I'd probably be a music video director.
Okay.
But I'm super inspired by just like culture I see, and then I try to collect things. So my computer is a total mess of inspiration and folders and things. And whenever I'm stuck or I don't know what to do, I'll often go back and look at things that I think are cool. And that's it. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool to me. Hopefully, to the target audience, it can also be cool to them too, and they can gravitate towards it. So I'm basically a collector. I just collect things I like. I try to remember them. I try to remember photographers I love, or even poetry or music I like, or things like this. And then from those collections, you can remix and find things and add a little bit of this. It's almost like cooking, right? You can grab the ingredients from different places, you can throw them together to make a new dish. So that's really my process. And yeah, I've always loved music. I like whenever I try to think of a film concept, I usually ask myself like, what might be the soundtrack, and then from there, I might
Mm.
get in the zone, close my eyes, write some stuff. Um,
And begin
Yeah,
to visualize the sequence in your head, kind of
totally.
that.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think I try to really give strong guidance on art direction. Like I don't leave too much up to chance. There's always great opportunity to collaborate with directors or photographers or whoever you're
Mhm.
working with, animators, whatever. And they'll always add like that extra bit that takes it beyond what you thought it could be. But I try to really have a vision. And it's funny, like people I've worked with have always said like, oh, like it's funny because your mock-ups turn out kind of like the final product, but just a little bit better, you know? So I don't know if that's like a compliment or not, but yeah, I try to just make sure there's a super solid vision, and then you bring in the right people to build on it, make it cooler than you thought it could be.
It put a very strong, I think, point to the students who wants to be in the industry creatively that being a collector of good references is so important to collect and to put your repertoire of ideas in a bigger way to every time you have somewhere to go in your mind or on your files or somewhere for that kind of inspiration, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. Like just the more you are inspired by things, the better. And I think what's also maybe important, you can totally be inspired by advertising. That's totally fine. You'll learn how to do good ads by watching other ads and absorbing those ads. But a lot of people, at least throughout my career, they always told me you should look outside of advertising. Don't go to advertising to be inspired. Look at other things, whether that's events or art, movies, books, whatever it might be,
Hmm.
because you can pull in these influences from culture. Culture is something that people are already into, right? Like, not a lot of people like advertising, right? And it's true. We don't all want to
Hmm.
watch ads all day, but we love enjoying movies or music or events, concerts, whatever it might be. So if you can find these things that people are already enjoying and liking, and then bring those influences into your ads, hopefully it'll make it more enjoyable for the audience and something that resonates. So yeah,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of the subcultures like music, as you just said, and extreme sports or kind of bizarre collections or something like that. There's always something to pick up from that kind of stuff. I agree with you. Uh, well, let's go now through the biggest before we go to the final questions. To the big jump in your career when you become from senior director at Anomaly to a creative director and move to London. How was that change on more managing people and also helping teams create uh, from being in a team? How was that big change?
definitely, yeah. So for me, like I've always enjoyed just like I said, I'll walk past people's computers and be like, hey, what are you working on? How can I help? That sort of thing. So I've always really enjoyed just helping and mentoring and just giving a little bit of input or a little bit of tricks, or like even at Mohawk, like I would love teaching all my friends in the class in the Mac lab what's the
Mm-hmm.
newest trick I learned on the weekend, or like, from my job at Nico, I learned how to do this. Hey, this will help for the next project, and I'll share it with other students. So
Mm-hmm.
I always had a lot of fun doing that. So that's just kind of in my nature. Like I like to just help and get people inspired and help them do better work. Um, I think in Toronto we definitely had a lot of, we were very autonomous. Like we would run a lot of our own projects. I was super lucky to basically just be given like, you know, do the work. If you have a problem, you can talk to your boss and they'll help. But they really helped us kind of, they allowed us to just run with a project, which is cool. And luckily we created some good stuff out of it. But when I moved to Berlin and having a smaller team, and like I was talking about before, learning more about the business and learning about hiring people and things. I was also at that time, my partner was a CD as well in the Berlin office, so he was very experienced. He knew how to run a team, how to hire people, how to inspire people, how to work more directly with clients right at the
Mm-hmm.
top. So I learned a lot from my time in Berlin. That's when I think I had the more of an appetite to be like more of a leader, let's say. And then everything from like running the internship program in Berlin to helping to hire junior teams to winning pitches and things like this, it all kind of came together to form the type of person you want to be. um, Even when I was in La Roche, like there's certain creative directors who taught me things that I still remember today, and I'll actually take what they taught me and I'll just pass it on. I'll just
I
share
see.
it again. You know what I
I
mean?
see.
Like it's not even my thing. It's just like, hey, this is something I learned when I was at your stage as a junior or whatever.
Mhm.
You should learn this, and then I want you to pass that on to the next person that works with you. So it's a lot about basically trying to motivate people. You never want to push your ideas onto people, but you want to find ways to take their ideas and then make it even better with a little bit of inspiration or a little bit of coaching. I try to not be too hands on as much as I can. I try to just be like more inspiring. Like,
Mhm.
hey, have you thought of this way? This idea is great, but maybe you could add a little bit of this or that,
Mhm.
things like this. So yeah, you have to let go a little bit, which is fine. I'm quite hands on when it comes to art direction and things, but also you have to allow the people around you to do their thing because they'll feel more empowered. Like I growing up, like when I came up, I was never quite a fan of it. I was told exactly what to do, but if I was given some guidance on how to do something better, then I'd always be more receptive to it. So um, yeah, it's about that. I'm also learning that it's not always about the creative part. It's sometimes about the business part. So making sure that the objectives are being met, that clients can understand how the creative ideas that we're showing them will solve their business problems. And you're more like a problem solver. Like if someone has a problem, you have to figure out how to make them happy or how to make them get past that problem, things like that. So it's definitely a shift, and I'm still learning how to do it even better. But I'm really enjoying it. It's nice to I get that little bit of a high when I see someone else do something awesome and then they're super proud of it. Like I used to get that feeling when I would see my own ads out in the world
Mhm.
or I'd see people enjoying it. But now I actually get a bigger feeling of that accomplishment when I see someone else make something really cool that they're very proud of and they'll share it on their social media or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
So it's cool. It's interesting. I still get that same feeling, but just from a different source.
So we'll get through the final four questions. So the question here is that I took notes is how it is to, because if I see a list of clients that you work in, it's kind of a dream list of clients that any person studying advertising you say, oh my god, if I work on those clients, I will be like the career will be fulfilled and everything. How you feel about that, and how you think it should be the next level, and how students should perceive that kind of a mentality.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's always super inspiring and you'll feel great if you get like a Nike brief across your desk. Like I had one creative that I used to work with say that if we don't do something interesting on this brief, then like we didn't do our job because it's this type of brand. This brand deserves to have something
Mhm.
interesting and creative, right? So that's cool. It's nice because the pressure's on. You have to deliver, or like you have
Mhm.
to. It's bigger pressure to do cooler and more interesting, impactful things for these type of brands. At the same time, though, you might actually find better opportunity from brands that aren't nearly as cool or nearly as exciting. I've had one of my favorite things to do is take brands that are not doing well or not like a part of culture and try to find a way to make them relevant again or exciting to
Mhm.
a new generation or things like that. So I find a lot of that's actually where the big opportunities are. You can do some great stuff for well-known iconic brands, but if you can do something super super innovative for a brand that might be struggling, they might actually be more likely to try something more risky because they need to, or they'll go out of business, or they'll lose market value or whatever it might be. So the classic brands and the iconic brands are really great and they're very exciting and they're very motivating. But like I said, it's all about finding your own opportunity on things. If you can take a brand and turn it around from a bad news story to a good news story, that will probably be a better piece in your portfolio and it'll probably stand out more to people who might hire you
Mhm.
or people that look at your work. So like the Can-Am campaign that I did was probably a good example of that. It's basically this company in Canada. They make these three-wheeled motorcycles. Those motorcycles, to be honest, they weren't cool. They were known for like retired motorcycle riders who can't ride a two-wheeler anymore. And they're kind of like nerd mobiles at the time. And we said, hey, we need to make this part of culture and like part of motorsports. It has to appeal to a new generation. So we took that brand, which was not cool at all, and we completely reinvented them partnered with the Migos at the time, who were like a very authentic motorsports loving rap group, and we worked with them to develop, a new way of speaking about the bike, a new way of shooting the bikes. We shot things more like music videos and less like ads,
Hmm.
to make that cool. So for me, that was a cool example of taking something that was on paper, it was kind of boring. Like if you get that brief, you're like, oh, these vehicles are kind of dumb looking, but you can take that, reinvent it, and then find a way to make them interesting. And for me, that's actually more exciting than just working on things like Nike or
Cool.
Converse.
I'm personally that I know you from teaching you more than 10 years ago. That I cannot imagine how happy I am on interviewing all you guys and see you guys making industry. It's so rewarding. It's the best part of my job. So to have you guys, yes, it is. It's all your work, but at the same time, it's just being part of it. It makes me feel, and I think the whole team at Mohawk feels very good about you guys because you guys are great. You're proud of the program.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, also we had great teachers. Yourself, Jeff, all the team, and like I think the stuff that we learned, like it definitely helped to propel that. And yeah, no, it all started with that, right? And then from there, you just make it your own and you grow along the way. So thanks for that. And yeah,
No
you
problem.
definitely had a
So
part in that.
no, that's fine. I'm super happy to be part of it. I have two questions for you. After hundreds of juniors and college graduated book reviews that you probably did during your career, I know that you saw thousands or hundreds and hundreds of different books and talks with a lot of different people. What kind of advice nowadays that you can give to people that you say, oh my god, that mistake again, oh my god, the same thing again, or what kind of projects that you like to see, or the biggest mistakes that people, juniors or graduated students usually do when they're showing their book?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I think like the whole craft thing comes back. So what I loved when we were all in Mohawk, we were encouraged to shoot our own content, to make our own whatever it might be. We could build something out of paper and we could make that into art direction. So I really like to see people who don't just steal things off the internet and then like Photoshop it or whatever. Like people who put a little bit of extra craft into what they do. I think that's super, super exciting to me because it shows that you can do things beyond the expected. So back to our conversation about like there's the expected stuff, but then there's something that goes a little bit beyond. If I see a little bit of that, and it might just be one or two projects, that's okay. Then I think for me that's really, really cool. Like if I see that you went the extra effort to maybe shoot something or to draw something or to um, maybe develop a soundtrack for your piece or whatever it is that goes just a little bit extra than just mocking things up in Photoshop with PSDs that you probably stole off the internet, then like
Mm-hmm.
I think that for me that's super cool. I like to see the effort basically. If there's a little bit of effort that goes beyond just building your portfolio, then you can usually expect that this person will put that extra effort into their real job. Um, and yeah, these days you need to have that. Like you can't just make things, at your desk. You have to find ways to put in a little bit more because creatives are always expected to do a lot more than just do creative stuff. So I like people who are makers, basically. If you make things, and that can be from a writing perspective, that can be from art direction or design, then I think you stand out more than people who are just making concepts and just strictly photoshopping things and things like that. So if I see effort, if I see a little bit of craft, if I see a little bit of the potential to make something from scratch and make something that's different, then I think that's a really good sign. And from there, you can definitely grow and excel in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you thank you so much. What is your fondest memories at Mohawk? Tell me a little bit, one
Ooh,
or two stories that you remember vivid in your head about your college years.
yeah. What I think was really cool about our class is we were quite a tight little family of creative people. And it's great because I'm still friends with a lot of the people from Mohawk today. Like when I visited Toronto in the summer, and I made it a point to basically see all my Mohawk friends in
Mm-hmm.
Toronto, which is great to catch up with everyone. So I think the little family that we built was amazing, and that was due to things like just working late in the Mac lab or just having parties at each other's house or just celebrating birthdays and things like this. Um, yeah, I think it's just the connections and the friends I made. Like I'll never not be friends with these people. Everyone's awesome. And what's great too is I've had the chance to also work with a lot of my friends at Mohawk. And yeah, every time I see someone, it's like we never even worked. It's like we just saw each other the day before. You know, like nothing really
I
changes. So
see. Yeah, it's so strange to see you guys. These guys are everybody's grown mans now to go into the industry. Going out. It's just strange, but it's nice at the same time. So Jordan, thank you so much to give this time to inspire our current students and future students to your knowledge on it. This is we are on November 2021. So and at this day here, it's kind of rainy here in Hamilton. How's the weather there?
it's
Uh,
yeah, a little rainy too. London's
It'll be
always
rain
raining.
too. Okay,
Yeah,
that time of the year. Yes,
yeah,
that time of the year is. Anyway, I'm thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for listening to Raf's cast, Tales from Mohawk Ad. Until next time, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, Raf. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, once again, jordandunlop.ca. That's the website. Thank you. Bye bye.
Cheers, Raf. Thank you.
Yeah.